Wow. Any questions?
This is the URL. Everything I'm going to talk about is findable here. I'll let that sit up there for a second. And this is part of a series of Dodge projects over the year. This is a presentation that just sort of happened by accident, but now it's become a tradition at the San Diego Q Computer Conference. And I'll put this up again at the end because I now have even less time to get through this.
I think like when I looked at it from the 11:20 to 12 was mostly just visiting vendors, so maybe we go over it, people aren't scared.
I don't want to tick off the vendors.
Thank you.
So, okay. Let me get to where we are. So here's the history of this. At the San Diego, and again, I highly recommend you come down if you're not from San Diego. This is an annual thing that San Diego Computer Using Educators puts on. And it's a great event. It only costs $30 for a full day of stuff. And every year it gets better and better. So as part of this, my wife and I, I'm not here today, look for websites and tools that we have found in our travels that seem to be useful to somebody, and we try to pick ones that most people haven't heard of yet. And so I don't know, librarians are so much more savvy than classroom teachers. So you may be more familiar with some of these things.
Well, make us feel better. We do know some. They would
and also, in most cases, these are tools that by themselves are not educational, but they are there because they inspire. In the hands of a good creative teacher or librarian, you can imagine all kinds of stuff to wrap around it. But by themselves, some of them are just resources. So I have even less time. Normally here it's billed as 18 sites in 60 minutes. This is going to be, I hope, 18 sites in 40 minutes. So I'm going to talk fast and won't be time to dwell on any of these things. So let me get started. Before I do that, though, what Wonder Map? Let me get your take on it, because now that the riffraff is gone and it's just us. do you see how practical do you see Wonder Map? Wonder Points, sorry.
I love Wonder Points, and I want to share that I did a 400-kid event capture this year, and it was magnificent. I didn't know it was an event capture, but we had 16 venues in Balboa Parks. We had digital cameras, we had the still cameras, and they wrote up the interviews. It was fabulous.
Yeah, but so just because it's a good idea, you intuitively did that, and what I want to do is sort of formalize that and come up with, here's a structure that novice teachers can pick up and use and do.
And the Wonder Points looks like we could have the same kind of fun right near school. That's just perfect.
Good. Yeah.
I see it, it's a very good tool to use at first with gifted and talented children because they always do a lot of inquiry.
Yeah.
And so it's more about depth and breadth than breadth, and I think that would be a good area to start. But it's not to say that it cannot be filtered to everybody.
Yeah, I hope it goes to everybody because that's obviously where the action is.
And I saw more of a tool using the eye search kind of thing that the kids will look at and he's interested or she's interested in. Anyways,
yeah, exactly. So if you can anchor it in something that they see every day on the way to school, it becomes a lot.
They are curious about it. Step into the natural curiosity.
Which we normally stamp out of kids.
Yes.
Younger kids are curious about everything, by the time they get to high school,
You forget to look. You're going where you're going, and that's what you're doing, and you don't take the time to stop and.
When I was in the Peace Corps, my first few months in Africa, man, everything was a miracle.
Right.
I looked at everything. I took a zillion pictures, even though they were analog and it cost a fortune to send them home to have them developed.
Right.
But everything was miraculous. And then by October of my first year, I stopped taking pictures. I stopped noticing things. And I think we all do that. It all becomes sort of tangible. Yeah.
I'm just sort of curious about, and I teach a part of the teacher part of it is kind of taking over in terms of how does supervision happen? It just when you're sending the kids out like that,
Great way to get the parents involved. You need chaperones, you need more adults there. But definitely, but also, you know, if you've chosen a place that has things of interest to kids, they're not gonna run wild. I think if there's a purpose for this walk away from campus, and they have a tool that they're excited about in their hands that seems more authentic than what happens in schools most of the time.
Well, I wasn't worried so much about the kids not being on task. I was actually more worried about safety issues.
Yes.
I just
Yeah. So, bring your own militia.
I had some concerns whenever you consult the hive mind or whenever you have data where it's kind of like you suggested that they had one email address that they all signed in.
Yeah.
I work at a 9-12 school, and I hesitated to be like, hey, take a bunch of pictures and put them up here, and I don't know how to individualize who put what where.
Well, yeah. Again, there's a technological fix to it, but really the important thing, just like with filtering, the more important thing is the culture you create and the expectations you create. And that's a human face-to-face kind of thing. Not, you know, kids will sin, kids will do stupid things that they'll regret later, but you got to give them a chance to make those mistakes in order for them to stop making those mistakes. I think we over-technify the solutions to some extent. Yes.
I have a question kind of in the same vein. When they put up the photo, is it public or is it only to you give access to?
I think you can control who gets to see it. And you can certainly, only the people who are logged in by that account can add to it. So you don't have to worry about somebody, you know, the business of everyone using the same Gmail address, that's a stopgap. I'm actually working on a better solution in which people will use whatever they have and mail it to a particular address. And then I'm writing the software on the server end that will take that, parse it, and put it on the website. It'll be much less cumbersome. But for now, this is the way we can do it, that you can do it right now if you really wanted to.
And our school rules, so they can just use the email and drop it in the Dropbox and teach it out.
Yeah, see, what I'm hoping that's a multi-step kind of thing. What I want is kid takes picture, says, I wonder what kind of tree that is, clicks send, and that's it. And then when you get back to school, it's all there. You've got it all in one place, and that's it. And right now, every other solution. Ushahidi works on iPhone beautifully, not so well on Android yet, which is kind of screwing me up because I've got 100 Android phones that I'm giving out to kids. Doesn't work in Android yet. So so we're going to come up with a more general solution that is, you know, just click. That's what I want.
Everything you said this morning, I was fascinated, you know, that kind of thing where you think, oh God, if I were younger, I'd start my own school just so that I could do it. Because you know that's exactly what should be happening. But one of the things beyond, we talk a lot about advocacy and do a lot with advocacy and everything that, you know, blah, 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 because everyone's losing their jobs. But I think ultimately it's really about district administrators and testing. And the only thing that they care about is testing. And for us, we can advocate, but they kind of overlook it. It's like, oh, you're the easiest person. Well, I got to cut the budget. And you look like the quickest solution to my problem. And it's over. It doesn't matter how much you advocate. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are enjoying that. They're losing their jobs or that have 4 jobs instead of 1. If people like you who are outside of this could show them that actually these are the kinds of things that will educate kids and they probably will do well on the test, and you should trust us. And we have a lot of data that shows that our existence helps kids on the test, but it actually gets them to read that is almost impossible. And I'm serious. So somehow people who are outside and really want kids to learn and have great learning environments have to advocate to district administrators that they aren't going to lose their job because they're in a different position. Those are competitive people who are thinking, oh, when can I be the county administrator or when can I be the state administrator? And it's not really about the kids anymore, it's about their career. And you have to show them that maybe their career could be advanced by doing this. And if you could make that connection, not about kids or whatever, that their test scores will be maintained or improved, that their own career will be advanced, then we have a place where we can work.
I have a solution to that. Most of you know data director, and as a professional librarian, I took it upon myself to be the lead person in my school and do data director. So one of the things that came up, because very few people know how to use it, and what did they use it for? So I said, okay, come up with questions. Give me the questions, I'll put it into the system and so forth and so on. I got history, science, math, and English on it now. Now I'm working on world languages and PE. But the connection is, yes, assessments are a crucial part of our institution.
Yep.
I can't take it away, but I'm going to work around it. So grab whatever source you have in your school district and go with it. And as a professional, everybody comes to me because of data director. So
can you add more questions that have to do more with not just the facts, ma'am, but finding out, gauging the extent to which kids wonder?
But data director is just data about the school, it's not.
But you can create the questions. You can create any questions you want and put it onto the system. And so when the kids come in, let's say HIV, that was the subject that was covered. Well, now I can create, you and I, the teacher, we create the questions, we put it in data director. The kids do very, very well because they just went through this program of going out there and doing a campaign. They know a lot of information. They're going to do very well. I go back, hey, HIV is part of biology. They did very well in this assessment. I have proof.
I don't know what it is.
Well,
I know a data director is.
It's like EduSoft, it's a software used for managing like common formative assessment,
Right.
benchmark tests and things like that, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's like,
The problems at the district level, the problems at the site level, the problems really at the federal level.
Yeah.
Right.
And I got to tell you how disappointed I am with our new president and how unchanged the education landscape is.
Yes.
Not what I was expecting. And that's where the change really needs to happen. And politicians, a lot of our problems are caused by politicians in legislating one, they're going to fix everything by fiat or Renault maybe. But it's not, there are solutions that are not informed by people who know about education or thinking. Well, why don't we do this? I now have 20 minutes to talk about 18 websites. So that means I'm going to skip over some of them.
Oh, no.
Well, you are all you can explain. Okay, I'll talk about them, but I'm not going to go to all of them, okay, because we simply don't have time. First one is a great new website that just about a few months ago, Professional Timeline. It looks at the 20th century America began, I would say, with the New Deal. It began with the Depression and pulling out of the Depression. So it covers every Congress, starting with the one that started in 1932 and included FDR's 100 days. And all the laws that were created in that Congress and so on. So how could you use something like that? I mean, it's not just, it is a big data dump. And just as for that, it's not particularly interesting. But think of the questions you can ask kids to ask of that database. They could look, for example, all in this one place. They can find every mention of civil rights in laws. And they will see that in some years, in some Congresses, it never came up. There was nothing much going on. They can look for environmental legislation. And they can see that in some eras, nothing. In other eras, hugely important. And healthcare and a whole variety of other things. And by looking for those patterns in laws that we had made for us, our representatives, you understand something about the forces at work in 20th century America. And that really is what history is about, is seeing those big trends, those big patterns and changes and so on. Not just the dates and facts. So it's a great resource for looking at all that stuff, where you don't have to worry about finding 28 different sites to send the kids to. It's all on one site, it's all this stuff. I'm going to go to this one, though, because I like this. Sepia Town is a Web 2.0 site that's all about collecting old pictures of places around the world, particularly America. And it lives on the contributions of the people who go to the site. And so, for example, you can go to, what's the search thing? There's San Diego. I haven't looked there. I did this in Palm Springs last week and found there was nothing there. So, oops, too far out. These are all pictures that were contributed by people. Yeah, look at that. Nobody contributed anything from San Diego.
Wow.
Indeed. So, there, and Southern California, the rest of you moved from someplace else. There's not much there because most people don't know about this. So you can be your local hero and tell people about this site. Because I think, first of all, for kids to see a contribution that they made appear and be available, it's like Mohammed Zina giving me his book. You know, for kids to be able to give back to the web, I think is a gratifying kind of thing. And let me show you what it looks like when people do contribute.
Are there any parameters or timelines, or you should put up a picture from today of a historical building, or do they want it in a certain time frame?
You know, I think the focus is on older stuff.
Okay. So primary source?
Primary source, yeah. So if you go, you know, in fact, in like small towns all over America, there are little historical societies, usually one senior citizen who has time on their hands to collect this stuff. And it just sits there, it goes nowhere. And families who've been in one place, it probably doesn't happen in California so much, but families who've been in one place for a long period of time have collections of photos, and even if it's just family gatherings and stuff, if it shows a time and a place, it's of interest. So this is my hometown. And Waterbury, Connecticut.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Oh, wow.
That's fabulous.
So people are contributing. Who are these people? Well, as it happens, I put up a few, and then as it happens, there's a Facebook group of pre-geezers like me who grew up in Waterbury and remember it in its glory days. Right now, it's just like dumb. But in the first half of the 20th century, when they did the Ken Burns movie about World War II,
Right.
Waterbury was one of the towns they focused on because it was transformed by the war. The factories there cranked out buttons and bullets and you name it for the war. Anyway, there's this group of people who share my background in this formerly great industrial town. And I put up a few, and then I let the people on the Facebook know about it, and suddenly there was barrage. So you can go through, and you can see right down to the street level exactly where these things are. I mean, this is a town that's got some great old architecture, and also sort of mundane things, like that. That's a hardware store, and somewhere over here there's a, yeah, here, this is my favorite. I used to go there once a week for ravioli. And now it's a parking lot. Oh, yeah. Well, and my house is under a bridge that goes from nowhere to nowhere. Yeah.
The older pictures, somebody scanned them in,
Yeah.
and then uploaded, is that
Yeah,
what?
and a bunch of them are postcards, and there's, you know, those are out there. I think you can pretty much assume they're in the public domain once they're past a certain age. And all kinds of stuff like that. So again, it gives kids a sense. One of the things I hated history as a kid, but somehow it hit me to start collecting postcards of Waterbury. And I have this wonderful, multifaceted sense of where I grew up now, because I see the buildings that I never knew were there because they were gone when I grew up. I see the buildings I remember, and I see buildings now that are there that kids today don't. You know, that's all they know. They don't know the past. I think to be able to see the world like Billy Cogan coming on Stuck in Time in Slaughterhouse 5, to zip through all of these eras and see them simultaneously on a map like this is great, and to be able to contribute your own pictures, I think is great. So California is pretty much empty on this map. I think it's be a good thing for kids to do.
I have the map, I don't see any of the pictures.
You may need to zoom out
I
too.
think you're too far.
Yeah, you have to be at the right level to see them. Okay. Next thing. Poll code. You know, so I did that poll anywhere thing during the session today. This is another one. You don't need any sign up at all. If you want your kids to be better consumers of other people's polls, why not have them make questions and put it out there? Send out the link to email this to other classes and so on. And they write the questions. They write the up to 30 possible answers to the poll. I wouldn't recommend that many. But a single question, put it out there, and it's like no muss, no fuss. You can just be your own sort of gallows pole on a particular narrow topic. I think it's a great way for kids to understand how important the wording of poll questions is, because that sways the kind of answers you get back. And just to get them, to see that polls are made by humans. They're not magic. There's an opportunity to make mistakes in the creation of them. And so they can do that too. And embed that in whatever else you're going to be doing. Stat Planet. Have any of you ever seen this one? One-stop shopping, again, for facts about the world. Statistics about the world. And again, it's one of these sites where probably more middle and high school, but even in the hands of somebody demonstrating it, younger kids can appreciate some of what's on here. This shows, right now, by default, it shows mobile cellular subscriptions per 100 inhabitants. And you can see, the American exceptionalism, the idea that a lot of people still have that we are number one in every possible domain. You can see, for example, that in the Soviet Union, the cell phone owned Jew, that in the Soviet Union, for every 100 inhabitants, there are 163 cell phones.
Oh, wow.
And
It's good to challenge your world perception of things.
Yeah.
It's like, just growing up in a Cold War era, and I mean, obviously Russia has advanced and so on, but you're like, Russia would not have been on the top of my list for having, all of those cell phones.
Actually, it's probably a sign of Russia's decline, because I think the infrastructure is falling apart, and the cell phones allow you to sort of not have to wait 20 years to get a line in. Yeah. That's why there are a lot of cell phones in the third world. Yeah.
Is there another one similar to this called Gapminder or something like that?
I've seen that, yeah.
Because it was, and you could pick any different category, population, weather, whatever, and you got these lovely graphical.
Yes, I've seen that one.
Gapminder?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think why it was called Gapminder. I think it was gaps between cultures and geographies.
It was more about the gap between rich and poor.
Yeah, I think so. And it had
Swedish
this,
guy for that.
yeah.
There's a TED talk about that one.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's all these different things, some of which might be on the test, that you can talk about. Education, differences in gender and pay, and things like that. And again, I think instructionally, the thing to do is to ask kids their preconceptions about stuff. Where do you think women are best paid? What countries do you think have the largest population of female lawmakers or leaders? And the answers to those kinds of questions are here, and you can also graph things against each other, to look for patterns, to look for relationships. So, just as a demonstration of real statistics that you would drive and show to kids, young kids can begin to understand this, I think. For older kids, you can throw it out there. They can figure out how to use the interface pretty easily and have them generate their own questions and find their own answers.
Are the sources easily identifiable?
Yeah.
Statistics.
Yes, and somewhere in here there's a thing that says where they came from, and they're all, the National Enquirer is not one of their sources. Fox News. None of that. Okay, this one's a little easier. You'll see also that a number of the sites this year have maps on them, just basically because I love maps. And so this is, remember in the Indiana Jones movies when it's going from one place to another, so a plane going over a map? This enables you to do the same kinds of things. Now, you may know that in creating WebQuest, one of the first sort of patterns of designing WebQuest that I discovered by looking at what people were actually doing with WebQuest was that to learn about a place, the best way, a good way to learn about a place, is to have kids construct an itinerary through that place as if they were going there themselves. So you want to learn about Italy, design a week-long trip to Italy that focuses on the geology of Italy. And another group does the same thing, focusing on religious sites. There are one or two there. And then you've got a budget, you've got a time limit, and so on. The deliverable for that could be not only day-by-day accounting, but something like this. So this shows the screen. This shows an itinerary of going through all these sites in England. You have to write the text. You can embed pictures and links so that it becomes kind of a rich summary of an itinerary through a place in a visually pleasing kind of way.
So it's beautiful. It's almost like a Google Lit trip.
Yeah, it is.
You can create the place marks, so you make all these place marks.
This is a lot easier because Google Earth is, you know, offering you Google Earth, I think it's still pretty clunky, surprisingly clunky for what it is. But the Lit Trips idea is beautiful. I met Jerome Berg at Cube just last week for the first time. I love an obsessed individual who makes something happen. He's one of my heroes.
And what's the name of this site?
This is called Tripline.
How did you get that? That was on this webpage?
Yeah, it was one of the examples on the very first page.
Yeah, okay.
Tripline.net, well, whatever, yeah.
And can you narrow it down for a city? Because this is like perfect, the French kids have to do a similar thing for the maps.
Right.
You can make it your neighborhood.
Okay, cool.
You know, it's up to you. You can figure out where the place is on the map, and you just do it all. This is all created by the users. So that's tripline.net. For younger kids, still, Scribble Maps, which essentially lets you scribble on maps. So, so suppose, you know, here's a map, and you want to put some drawings on it, you want to put some pins on it. I'll take that one. I'll stick it there. And, you know, so the kind of stuff you can do in Google Maps and Google Earth. And that's the end of that. You can make shapes.
Can you put a picture in?
And this looks like a picture icon. Yes, you can add an image. You can put text. So it's essentially a nice way to make a nice-looking annotated map. And as the final deliverable for some other kind of lesson, this would be a pretty cool thing. Yeah.
Do you know, we just did an atlas thing for one of the religious classes. Does either one of these allow you to scan in a map? Because they had to make places on the Holy Land during the time of the Rebirth. How many people have that map lying around? But if we had a master, I don't know if we could scan that and then the kids could use that.
Not on these sites, but there is a site that lets you do. Well, there is a site that has a lot of historic maps already built in and overlays the usual Google interface. And if you write me, I'll remember where that was.
Okay.
Because it's this huge collection. I forget the guy's name. He's a huge rich guy who bought a zillion maps, and he's now sharing them with the world by putting them.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
This is a couple of weeks ago. I was listening to Coast to Coast AM, late night AM radio, all that stuff. There's a guy there who was predicting the end of the world pretty much around 2012. And he's selling people a map that shows where are the safe places. The places that won't turn into volcanoes in your parking lot and tsunamis coming through your backyard. They're all places no one in the right mind would want to live. Like, Saskatchewan. And
Does he own real estate there?
he owns real estate. And the odd thing is, this guy now lives not far from Chernobyl. Anyway, so you can make your own post-2012 survival map and sell it online and pay for the librarian position you just wanted. This is one that was news a couple of months ago, probably not news to you all now. Have you heard of it, Quickie? Oh, I'm dying to know what you would think of this. So let's type in a word like look it up.
I'm sure a district would block it.
What I'm
That's
hearing,
Wiki in it. That's what you're buying. It's not Wiki.
well, and Quickie, it's got its baggage as well.
Yes.
So, okay, it's flashing, so that's not showing. Unfortunately, this has sound, and I don't have a speaker hooked up to this. But, so.
Libya is a country located in North Africa bordering the Mediterranean Sea to the north. Libya lies between Egypt to the east, Sudan to the southeast, Chad and Niger to the south, and Algeria and Tunisia to the west. With an area of almost 1.8 million square kilometers, Libya is the 4th largest country in Africa by area and the 17th largest in the world. The capital, Tripoli, is home to 1.7 million of Libya's 6.4 billion people. The 3 traditional parts of the country are Tripolitania, Fezzan, and Cyrenaica. The flag of Libya consists of a green field with no other characteristics. It is the only national flag in the world with just one color and no design, insignia, or other details.
So that's it.
That's cool. Do they have, besides like countries and stuff, what kind of other things do they have? Do they have like political bills or issues?
Who creates it?
Both famous people.
Do they have diseases?
Give me an example.
The Irish potato.
Wow, okay, let's just.
I'm just wondering, I mean.
Right.
No, I don't know, that's one I've not looked at. Great fan of
Oh, there you go. Ooh, wow.
So it's sort of primed with schooly kinds of topics.
Where do they get their information at? How do they pay for it? Why are they doing this? Because World Book isn't going to be happy.
No, this is not a Web 2.0 site, it is not user-contributed content. A lot of it comes from Wikipedia, some of it comes from somewhere else. It is curated to some extent, you know, it's not just wildly feeding in Wikipedia stuff. There is some oversight, there are some editors. Obviously the computer is, the voice is computer generated. And this barrage of images, you know, part of me thinks this flies against everything I know about multimedia design, because sometimes the picture you're looking at has absolutely nothing to do with the narration. And so there's a little cognitive overload there. But in any case, when I show this to teachers, they love it because, you know, you got so many kids who struggle with reading, and it's visually jazzy, it's interesting. I wouldn't write my dissertation on Libya based on doing what we just did.
You know, biographical as like if you put Guacamama there, you fact.
Yes.
There's a lot of teachers do biographical.
Yeah, so as a way to get a sort of first impression of the topic, and then there are follow-up things. On the Libya thing, there's lots of follow-ups, you know, ancient Roman ruins in Libya and so on. So it's a way, I think, to pique their interest. But, you know, you have to be every bit as, not skeptical, but cautionary about the content itself as you would be for anything else. Somebody else had it.
I was just going to say, like you've already said, it could be a quick and dirty way to kind of spark their interest.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, and then they can go to more in-depth or more quality sources. But absolutely, I mean, pictures and sound.
Yeah. And pictures and sound you didn't have to put together. That's the beauty of it. So it's all there, and I still like it.
Can you slow down the speed at which the reading is happening? I'm only asking because for the students that really need that was rather fast. And I think an easy reference follow-up would be to verify the facts that you just saw.
Oh yeah, that's great. Like talk back to your TV. You show the kids this and then have them say.
Have them prove that it's correct.
Yeah. I don't see any speed control here. And that's because it's computer-generated text, that would be very doable. So that's something that somebody ought to suggest.
Yeah. Send them a tweet or send them a Facebook message.
They're still new. They're very responsive. It's a startup company. It's actually a commercial company. At some point, they're going to make money on this. Otherwise, you know, they'll be out of business and this whole conversation.
Well, textbooks are doing this more with go to an online link and they provide that. We have something called SAS in School.
SAS in School.
Which does a lot of this content.
SAS in St. Mary's, I'll tell you.
I'm not sure what the acronym is, and I didn't go to Catholic school, so I'm lost there.
The next
Probably
thing is
should have, but
CrowdMap. No, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
CrowdMap and Ushahidi I've already talked about, so I won't go up here, but those are the links to it. This is one I just found a week ago. World Names. And, you know, I remember as a kid reading Dale Carnegie's How to Influence People and Make Friends with Political Knowledge. And one of the things I remember from that is that one of the most important things in any person is their name.
Yes.
And in meeting somebody, expressing some interest in their name which helps you remember it, is an incredibly useful tool for manipulating over your own evil ends. And what this does is allowing you to, only once you have to put in your email, because they're gathering data on who's actually using this. So that's just statistical stuff. So now that I've done that, this shows the distribution of Dodges in the world, which was news to me. Here they all are. There's a bunch in Australia and New Zealand. There's a surprisingly small number in England, and a bunch in the U.S.
Can you zoom in?
Yes, you can zoom in. In fact, that's the cool thing.
Alaska, it's amazing.
Now, what do they do with your email?
They're just they want to make sure, they want to track the number of separate real people, not just hits on their website. They want to know how many different people are using their site to get their funding. So again, here's the distribution of it, a surprising number in the United States. And I would personally find this way more interesting if my name was actually Dodge, but my father changed it from a Lithuanian name when he was a kid, so this is not so interesting. In fact, that name appears, they did a pretty good job here, because he has one surviving first cousin who lives in Florida, who's 102. And he's on the map. The only one. They couldn't even find any in Lithuania. The data for this comes from phone books. And so they have 300 million names, mostly from phone books. And one of the things you can find out, scroll down, is what forename goes with each one of those. The top four names for Dodge are John, Robert, David, William, and James. They're all male names because phone books typically have the husband's name. Widows just put an initial or something there because they don't want to.
So how sad though that this is going to start to be less valuable, because like both of my daughters are not in phone book, they only have cell phones. So phone books now are becoming less representational of actual people who use phones, because nobody's in the phone book, they just have cell phones.
Well, so
let's enjoy it while we may.
It is what it is. I mean, everything that we can point to today is going to be useless 10 years from now. So, anyway, as a way to explore, though, and have the kids in your class who have names of all kinds of ethnicities. They don't. Their coverage of all countries is not equal. So, I don't know how well they do on the viruses and.
Some are yours. 2 months ago, there was a National Geographic article on the distribution of surnames in the United States, if you're interested. And then they had a graphical representation, it's like Smith. And then interestingly, they would come, it was like California, and then Spanish names. It was interesting. They had a company article.
So it's interesting stuff. I think kids find this interesting to compare each other and so on, and find out who's got what's the most common name and so on. So, okay. What time is it now?
11:19.
And we're supposed to stop at 11:20?
There's other better times. You're on time.
I'm going to be selective here. These animation things are way cool. They'll take too long to demonstrate, but basically they, just like desktop publishing 20 years ago, 25 years ago, put tools in the hands of ordinary people that were normally professionals had to make stuff that looked like it was professionally published. The animation things are getting cooler and cooler, letting you do animations that formerly would have taken a room full of artists and geeks to make happen. They're pretty cool. I do want to show this because I just think it's so cool. Aviary is a company started by a guy who walked away from some startup with millions in his pocket. And he decided to put out tools for everyone to use, and mostly embraced by teachers, I think, that are free and that are powerful. A lot of what's in the Aviary site are things that Adobe publishes and charges hundreds of dollars for. So there's a Photoshop clone, there's a Adobe Illustrator clone. This one is kind of a GarageBand clone. And if you don't have a room full of Macs with iLife on them, this is not a bad substitute. And to elicit creativity from kids, to let them know that that they can create stuff. Let's just open a sample so you can hear it. What it involves is putting up separate tracks here. So this is Techno-Kit, these are drums. And then here's a sitar. I can't wait to hear what this is going to sound like because they randomly generate things. A snare drum, a kick drum, a metallophone. So and each one of those represents a note, and the vertical lines are, measures of a note. And you can tell here's the tempo. There's 4 beats to a measure. So let's hit it. I could listen to that all day. So you make loops, you can export them, you can make them be the soundtracks for your media presentations that kids are making without having to worry about copyright. You can control whatever mix of instruments you want, control tempo. It's all there, it's all free, yes.
So then you would
embed. No, you were just yawning.
Yeah, I was just stretching. Okay, so you would embed, like, okay, once you made the track, you just embed it to the presentation?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
So, here's just like one measure's worth of things going on. You just make these loops and we'll put them together. Yeah.
Can you add your own sounds? Or only use the ones that they have?
Only the ones here, I think, yeah. But in terms of that, have you seen GarageBand on an iPad? On an iPad? Yeah. It's a world of difference from the one you're used to. And one of the things you can do is just hook a mic up to it, do your own sound sampling. Great for podcasts, great for putting in vocals in your own instruments. It's astonishing, and it's $5. $5 for GarageBand on an iPad.
Bless you.
And the iPad is just another $5. All right, I'm running way out of time here. I suspect, given what you do for a living, that you are lovers of words. And there are a number of sites out here like this that let you type in a word and see other words that are related to it in some ways. I like this one. This is a newer one, I think.
This one's free? Because I have
It's free, yes, I know. Visual Thesaurus became not free. Yes. And I like this better anyway. And it's free for the moment. So it shows relationships here, because really in language what's important is not so much the blobs, but the lines between the blobs, relationships. So, opposes, entails, causes, and also that these are color-coded based on what part of speech they are. So as a way for kids who are just learning English, which is really all kids, some more than others, let them explore the language and to look for synonyms and antonyms and so on. It'd be great.
Foreign translate, like foreign, like the word would be in Spanish, French, does it do that?
No.
And you translate it
It's English.
It's just English.
It's just English. But
that's great.
for the kids who speak Spanish and want to learn for English, this really drives home. The relationships of words, especially synonyms and antonyms and so on. And parts of speech, which is, not a thrilling thing to teach. Having it in color here. And also, of course, it's all rubbery, which is kind of cool. So again, by itself, who cares? But as something that inspires some great lessons on your part, this is cool.
Does it have a definition?
Does it what?
Does it have a definition?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Oops. Squelch.
Oh, you said it right.